Yeah. Hello guys, how you doing? My name's John Hinker. I'm the post commander here in Belleplain VFW, post 6257. We're here in New Jersey, Belleplain, New Jersey, and we're going to be talking today about suicide prevention. We're here, we have our guest here, Matt Jacobs from the Delaware VA Medical Center. Matt, we just wanted to find out a little bit about you and tell us what you do and what your position there is in Delaware.
Yeah, and thanks for having me. It's great to be here. So my name is again Matt Jacobs. I'm the Suicide Prevention Coordinator for Southern New Jersey. I cover all of Atlantic, Cumberland, and Cape May counties, as well as part of Salem County as well. So I am connected with the VA Medical Center in Wilmington, but I work right here in South Jersey. And really my job is to connect with local veterans and really to partner with the community in the effort, in the shared effort to prevent suicide among veterans.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and I really, truly appreciate. How long have you been with the VA now for?
I'm in my third year with the VA.
Oh, okay, great.
Yep.
So we'll just dive right on into it. So the big thing out right now, of course, we're talking about suicide prevention. What is out there for veterans to be able to find if they're in that, they're in that zone and they're there, and what's available to those guys to be able to get services or 1-800 number, something that they can reach out to fellow veterans, anything that they could do that you can maybe enlighten us on that they could do when they're in that situation there.
So one thing we know about suicide is it's preventable, right? If you have a terrible cancer diagnosis, you may have steps that you can take to keep somebody alive, but sometimes those are incurable. Whereas with suicide, we know that it is preventable. Suicide has maintained around the 10th leading cause of death for a long time. So this is not a new problem, but this is certainly a problem that we in the VA are trying to wrap our arms around and try to help veterans and their families to help prevent any veteran from taking their own life. So you asked the question is what can somebody do to kind of access services? The main thing is the crisis line. I talk about it all the time. It's 800-273-8255, and if you're a veteran, you press the number 1. And what happens is you get somebody live on the phone, and there's been a new call center that's opened up in the last couple of years. Okay. They've received over 1 million calls. They get calls every single day. And what happens with those crisis calls is that they address the immediate need, but then the neat thing is that those crisis calls are then transferred to the local level, and more often than not, if it's not somebody who's in an acute emergency in which they need to be rescued right then and there, they'll get a call from the Suicide Prevention Coordinator really the next day.
Oh, really?
So I've had...
Now, in your region, in your district, somebody will be calling actually from your community, I guess.
Correct.
It would be.
Correct.
Okay.
So usually I get that report first thing in the morning, and I'm usually calling those guys or gals first thing in the morning. Wow. To kind of address whatever the situation was the day or the night before, or in some cases maybe the weekend before. So they'll get a call from somebody locally to address their needs right away. Okay,
and I guess when they're in that zone, best thing 911. When they're there.
Yeah, I mean if somebody is in that sort of acute risk where they have a plan, they've decided how they're going to do it. Yes, if you're somebody who knows that person, or if you are that person, you have a moment where you're sort of like, gosh, I need some help. You can call the crisis line and be transferred directly to local police, or certainly you can just expedite that and call 911.
Now, with that service that you're speaking of, now any veteran can do that? Does he have to be a combat veteran? Can he serve the day and he's in good standings to be able to get those services, or? Yeah,
so in addressing the problem of suicide, we don't want any of those barriers to get in the way. Okay. We don't want any veteran who feels as though maybe they feel less than for whatever reason. Sure. That those services are for them too. So yes, any veteran, anybody who's served, even if someone has a dishonorable discharge, they can still call and get emergency services. They can qualify for mental health services on an emergency basis. A lot of times those guys will be addressed and referred out to community resources. Because that's really one of the neat things about suicide prevention from the VA perspective, is we're addressing it from a community standpoint. Because we know that 2/3 of the veterans who are taking their life, sadly, are not affiliated with the VA. Right. So we know there's a lot of veterans out there that are struggling who are not currently linked with VA services, but we don't want to ignore those needs either. So we want to make sure that those guys know that there are resources out there. There are community resources. There's the vet center. There's a long list of places that are willing to help guys who are in that need.
Okay, and it's funny you just brought up about the vet center. I know, along with the guys that are going through, coming back from service, been around for a long time, the Korean guys, the Vietnam guys,
Yeah.
The PTSD. Well, what about their family, their kids? Is there any stuff out there? Because as we know, when the veterans, upset about stuff, the family's there. Their family, their kids are there. Everybody's there. Is there any services or anything available to the family members or anybody as far as that goes with the VA?
Yeah. So, veterans can qualify for benefits based on certain markers in their service. But yes, there are services available to family members and to children of service members. I've actually responded to crisis calls in which it was a spouse or a daughter or a son or a brother, and they just called and said, hey, this person's really hurting. I'm really worried about this person.
Right.
What can we do? And I'll have a dialogue with that person. Sometimes it's going out into the community with myself or one of the staff members to meet them where they are.
Oh, so you guys actually go out into the community, you go and talk to the family members, you get involved.
We get involved. We don't let any barrier get in the way.
Okay.
Some guys maybe are averse for whatever reason to coming into the clinic.
Sure.
Other guys don't feel like they really need the help. The most important thing for them sometimes is to know that there is help there if they do need it or when they do decide. Now, again, if somebody is in acute need and somebody's at risk and they already have a plan, they already have put steps in motion, and there's some very concerning behaviors, that might be a little slightly different conversation to really kind of be able to sort of meet that veteran where they are, because suicide is a decision that sometimes is made in an instant. Other times somebody's planning ahead. And for the guys that are planning and putting the warning signs out there, those warning signs aren't always so easy to see. But if you hear somebody talking about dying, if you hear somebody giving away items that used to be important to them, giving away medals, giving away items that you knew to be very important to them at one time in their life, a veteran who's kind of making all sorts of plans for their death, somebody who's talking about it a lot or has thought about how they might do it. Those are warning signs that you want to take extreme caution with, and certainly make sure that you get them or get yourself in touch with somebody who can assist that person.
Well, and bringing on that too, like I know I always talk, when we're in the military, you always got to plan for stuff. You got to set up for missions. You got to get ready for the mission. You got to go out and prep stuff. Do we prep for suicide prevention? Is there do you think that's a liable thing for family members, friends, different people that, hey, maybe have the stuff in place, so God forbid the day that, they need those services, they have them in place. Do you have any ideas or good plans that we could do something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that we are big on at the VA is creating a safety plan, coming up with a plan to say, okay, these are my triggers. These are the things that upset me. These are the things that when this happens, you can fill in the blank for whatever it is for you. But when this happens, I have thoughts of taking my life. Right. And when you identify what those triggers are, then the next step is kind of identifying, all right, what's my plan? I know that this happens periodically. Maybe it's an anniversary, or maybe it's a certain, I have a guy who one of his triggers is diesel fuel.
Sure.
You don't know when you're going to come across a diesel truck.
Right.
So that's a trigger for him. So what he's developed is a plan. Is okay, not if, but when this happens, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. Now, every guy's different, and their plan could be everywhere from, I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to reach out to this person. I'm going to contact, a family member. Sometimes it's just as simple as distracting oneself and saying, okay, I need to shift my mindset right now away from this thought and put it towards something that's going to be more helpful in that moment. And it's okay to talk to other people, because one of the things, I've talked to people who have had family members or people that they are close to die by suicide, and the most common, most often response is, oh my gosh, I didn't know. I never knew this was happening.
You hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what I encourage people is to be honest and transparent about how they're really feeling. And if you're hurting, people who love you want to know that. Right. They don't want to go to your funeral and say, gosh, I wish I had known. They want to know now while you're still here. So I always encourage guys is no matter how dark it gets, recognize that there are people out there who care for you. Doesn't matter how many mistakes you've made, where you've gone, where life's taken you. There are people out there, myself included, who do care and do want to help you.
Now, you're talking, now this is a national plan, right? So this isn't just for like southern New Jersey, which where we're at, in Delaware and Philadelphia. This is nationwide, right? Because the VA has, you know, guys like yourself out there nationwide, boots on ground, helping these guys with suicide prevention. So it's not just us here in southern New Jersey, it's everywhere in the country. So I think it's very important, you know, be able to get the word out. And, you know, it's not just here, it's everywhere, you know.
That you may have heard of the hashtag Be There, and it's this idea that you want to be there for veterans wherever they're at, whether they are just home from deployment last week or whether they, you know, are 50 years separated from a term service in Vietnam. Anywhere and everywhere in between, Korean veterans and even some World War II veterans still.
Sure.
You know, you want to be there for them, and one of the ways that we can be there for them is to link them with services at the VA. But we know that there's some guys who may never even set foot in the VA, but we still want to partner with communities, VFWs, American Legions, all these different organizations out there, Wounded Warrior, all these different organizations. I was just at I was at a local hospital today, and I was at the Mental Health Association earlier today up in Atlantic County. I'm trying to partner with community resources because I know in the back of my mind, I always remember that there's some veterans who are not going to come to the VA. And we want to be there for those veterans too. We want to make sure that the community is equipped, families are equipped, and that there are services available to these guys and gals.
And thank you so much. And this, the final question, like, so say, you know, he has, you know, or she has these services that they needed, and they did. What's the follow-up? You know, do you guys forget about them? Is there a follow-up plan?
Right.
If they do need the services, where they reach out to the VA or reach out to people in the community, is like, what's the follow-up on that kind of a situation?
Well, you know, I always tell people, you know, you direct your own care. You're in control of your care. If you decide that you need more visits, let us know. If you decide, hey, you know what, I don't maybe need to come to group every week, I want to kind of reevaluate, that's also up to you, and that's okay too. But when it comes to follow-up, yes, we do follow up. There are certain measures in place. There's national benchmarks in terms of follow-up. For example, if somebody doesn't show up for an appointment, we know that we need to call them at least 3 times and send them a letter.
Okay.
So we do everything that we can. Now, a lot of staff I know, myself included, will go above and beyond that. So you know, it's not about making the minimum effort. It's about making the most effort that you can. So yes, so there's definitely follow-up. Sometimes there's conversations with family members. As long as that's been, you know, talked about ahead of time, we don't go around veterans' backs and talk to their family members. But as long as that's part of the plan, we'll reach out to people to make sure that they know that, hey, maybe you haven't been here for a while, but we'd love to see you, and if you need something, we're here. Right.
Well, again, I really appreciate you coming out and speaking with us. You know, I think we got a lot of good information out, and I hope, you know, we're going to hopefully save somebody with this information. We really, truly appreciate you coming out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cool.